My name's Ted Kesik, and I'm a professor of building science in the architecture faculty at the University of Toronto. I entered the construction industry back in 1974 and did a whole bunch of stuff before I decided I wanted to become a building science engineer and eventually a professor. So I've been a professor since 1989, so it's been a while. And I've also done a lot of consulting to architects and to government agencies regarding building performance. And so that's sort of my field. And I'm here today to talk about Lumon balcony enclosures. Well, what happened was a while back we were looking at the old apartment buildings in Toronto, the tall apartment towers, and none of them had any form of balcony enclosure on them, and we were looking to retrofit these buildings so that they would be more energy efficient, more comfortable. And as we looked at different technologies, we came across the Lumon system for being able to enclose balconies. And so we started the analysis of what kind of benefits we would get from that, from an energy conservation point of view, also from a comfort point of view, and even a durability point of view. And it all came out very well, and so we concluded that it was a good system and it was a good way to make balconies perform a lot better, which of course would then make the rest of the building perform better. So that's how we discovered the product. The way to understand all of the benefits, because there's many benefits, there's probably more than a dozen benefits that you get from them. But if you want to talk about the big three, you have to sort of look at everyone's perspective. If you're looking at the, let's say, the condominium owner or apartment dweller's perspective, you end up having really an almost four seasons room. So you've got a space that's very, very comfortable and usable. It doesn't matter if it's rainy, it doesn't matter if it's windy, it can be chilly. You can be enjoying the space. And that makes it really, really livable, but it also improves your energy efficiency and comfort indoors during extreme weather. On top of that, this extra layer of glass, which is tempered and very, very strong, as we move towards an era of climate change and extreme weather events, you're going to have protection against airborne projectiles, which occur when you do have hurricane speed winds. And we're starting to see more and more of that across Canada. So it has all of those benefits. So it's comfort, it's enjoyment, it's security. It's a lot safer, as you can see where we are now for children and pets. People can't fall over railings. It's nicely enclosed. It's a really great environment. So that's one major advantage that's from the perspective of the condominium owner or the tenant that's occupying the space. From the developer's perspective, this is a system where, and this also is of interest to architects, is a system that is completely engineered by Lumon. So they don't have to get into making all of the detailed drawings and specifications. They just have to say, we want this system, and Lumon puts in the system and they provide the warranty along with it, which is a huge advantage because it takes time to design and develop balcony enclosures. This is a completely thought out, prefabricated system that's customized to the application. So that really makes life easy. It's an easy choice for a developer as an add-on. And the nice part of it is that, of course, it's extremely low maintenance because it's a passive system. So unlike, let's say, HVAC systems that have to be maintained and that you have to constantly do maintenance to and change filters and so on, the components wear out. Something like this is going to last the life of the unit, and it's a passive technology. It doesn't require any power. It works wonderfully. So from their perspective, a really simple value-added feature in the building without having to really invest a lot of time and additional considerations when they're doing their promotion and marketing of the unit. The third real prime benefit is that you have fundamentally a much more resilient suite, which is good because environmentally, of course, the energy loads are less, so we're putting less stress on the energy grid because this is a buffer zone. It works without any power, so when the power goes out, you are much safer in there. This puts less stress on everything, including emergency services during extended power outages that coincide with extreme cold weather events. So when you start to examine that part of it from what I would call the societal perspective, it's really important to appreciate that these add that second line of defense against those types of issues. So it's really, those are the three biggies in terms of the benefits, but there's a whole bunch more. Yes, I think always, you know, the sort of floor area calculations that are done when they look at densities and zonings in planning departments, probably right across North America, they tended to automatically say that when you enclose the balcony that floor area was now going to count. But the fact that this is a system that can completely retract and become an open balcony, it really doesn't make much sense to be able to say that that is the increased floor area, because it's only increased when the weather conditions are such that you would probably enclose it with the glass. Other than that, it's the same as an open balcony. The other thing to consider, and it's very, very important, is that as we intend to build smaller, and we do that for good reasons, because we just can't keep building big places. It's a lot of materials. It puts a lot of stress on our natural resources. It's nice to be able to expand the living space without having to make the building any bigger. So by adding the enclosure, you're taking a space and giving it a lot higher usage, which is beneficial that way. And you know, let's face it, if people are using their homes more, they're probably driving their cars and going places less. So you're going to see a reduction in things like the carbon footprint of automobiles and moving around. So you have to think of it big picture wise. It's sort of a really good thing to do. It doesn't really, or shouldn't really, count as additional living space, because it's not really livable the way the rest of the condominium unit is, but it is occupiable or habitable, as we say, during certain times of the year, more than it would be if it was an open balcony. I think there's a whole bunch of things that people don't think very much about, just because it's sort of a specialized part of building science field. But currently, because we are looking at issues like climate change and also resource depletion, there's a very high interest in trying to make buildings as passive as possible. In other words, we want to put a minimum amount of energy input into buildings, both in when we're building them in terms of the material choices we make, but also the operating energy of the buildings. So whenever you have a choice, you can either put in a passive system or an active system. And a passive system would be things like thermal insulation and, of course, glass balcony enclosures like the ones that Lumon manufactures. And so it's passive, and it's good because it does not require any power. So you can always invoke it, you can always use it, you can adjust it the way you like, and this is a big advantage because it's completely passive. It also improves the energy performance of the building. It does other things. It allows very little rain or any type of, you can limit the amount of sunlight. The deterioration of the balcony space, and balconies that are open do deteriorate much more rapidly than enclosed balconies. So from a maintenance point of view, a durability point of view, a life expectancy point of view, you really get a lot of value out of an enclosed balcony. So the idea is that you want to go more towards passive measures in buildings, and this is a great passive measure. It's not a new idea. Enclosed spaces, buffer zones as they're called, have been used in architecture for millennia. For some reason, we sort of got into an era of cheap energy, and we forgot about anything like this, just because we were spoiled, to put it quite bluntly. We had a lot of cheap energy, and we just, didn't care about stuff like that. Now that we're starting to realize that energy prices are high, and that we also want to have better security and more thermal resilience, we're starting to come to realize how wonderful these passive buffer zones are. So it's a huge advantage from a passive buffer zone point of view and what that does for performance. But there's another part of this that's really important as well. If you look at how people dress for what we call high performance activities, there was a time when people used to wear sort of what I would call the single outfit. Let's say you're going to go snowmobiling and you would wear a large, usually it was a onesie, sort of a one-piece, heavily insulated snowmobile suit, just to give you an example, because we are in a cold climate here in Canada. And but that's changed. Now people say, really what you should be doing is layering. And that way, depending on the conditions, sometimes when you're going, it's really cold. It could be minus 25. You want to have all your layers on and all of your different protection against the wind. And then it's a beautiful spring day in March. You're still being able to go out for a spin, and you look and think, yeah, but the temperature is only 5 degrees C. Do I really want to have all these layers on? And so one of the tremendous advantages of a system like this is that this adheres more to the layering concept. So what you have here is layering, and the layering allows you to adjust this exactly the way you want in terms of shading, how much ventilation you get, how much view you get. You obviously can control privacy very, very well. Another big major consideration, especially in areas where there's a whole concentration of buildings and people are sort of peering in, this allows you to have a nice buffer zone that also affords privacy. So when you put all of that together, it's really a more advanced approach to how we should be designing multi-unit residential buildings like condominiums. And we shouldn't be going for the old one-piece snowmobile suit. We should be going for something that's layered, and we selectively adjust things to suit our needs.